The idea of a minimalist lifestyle and the desire to declutter our busy lives led to the concept of the capsule wardrobe. And the idea behind this is all about building a simple, structured closet with a small number of pieces, all compatible with our style and our lifestyles. And this is exactly what we want from our investment portfolio. We want simplicity and congruence with our goals, our investing time frame, and our risk tolerance. In this video, we will talk about creating that capsule investing portfolio. Hi there, welcome to my channel where we talk money and having more of it. In this video, we are going to look at the steps to creating an investment portfolio that matches your investing style and your lifestyle. Let's dive in. The first step to creating your capsule portfolio is getting clear on what you want from that portfolio. So similarly to creating your capsule wardrobe, your capsule portfolio is personal to you. And as such, you should have a clear idea of what goals you want your portfolio to achieve, when you want it to achieve these goals, and how much risk you are willing to take to achieve them. So your goals are likely to be a combination of short-term goals. Those are the goals that are less than 5 years, such as that big dream vacation, a wedding, maybe a deposit on a house. And then your medium to long-term goals, which are those greater than 5 years, which may be something bigger, such as education for your kids or upgrading your house or something to that extent. And then those lifetime goals, which are likely to be your retirement goals. So once you understand where your goals are on your timeline, you can plan your portfolio appropriately. For example, your retirement goals are more effectively met in the tax-efficient vehicle of your pension, and then your medium to long-term goals can be effectively met in a tax wrapper, such as in the UK, your ISA, which means you don't pay tax within the vehicle. But if you don't have access to that, it could equally be met in a taxable general account. And the reason for putting your medium to long-term goals into these non-pension related vehicles is you probably will want to access this before the regulatory age, and so you don't want to be paying a penalty when you want to access your assets for your specific goals that you've set out on your timeline. Let's pop to step 2. So the second step is building the foundation of your portfolio, and the foundation is the safer part of the portfolio, and it's where you want your safer assets, such as your savings account. And one of these savings accounts is likely to be your emergency fund. As a rule of thumb, you want your emergency fund to have sufficient cash to cover about 3 to 6 months of your basic necessities in the event that you aren't earning any money. Other savings accounts would be for those goals that are less than 5 years. Now, remember, investing in the market is volatile, and you should save this for your goals that are longer than 5 years. And the reason being, the market is going to go up and down, and you want your investments to have enough time to ride out that and still build enough money or enough assets for the goals when you want to achieve them. In the center of your portfolio, you're going to have your core portfolio. And your core portfolio should be simple, easy to maintain, and effective. And for this, I enthusiastically suggest using funds, and in particular, passive index funds. Why I say passive index funds, a passive fund is simply a computer algorithm choosing assets based on a specific index. So there's no expensive fund manager being involved, and so these funds are typically much cheaper. In addition, the benefit of funds is that by investing in a fund, you are investing in a huge portfolio of diverse assets, getting instant diversification from investing in a fund. Now, the cherry on top of your portfolio is where you'll add your more speculative investments, such as your individual shares, your commodities, such as gold or silver, your cryptocurrencies, for example, Bitcoin and any others that you're investing in, and even collectibles such as art. So now we've taken a look at the foundation, let's take a look at how you're going to plan your core capsule portfolio within that foundation. So an effective capsule portfolio contains a mix of different asset classes, and this is simply investments which have diverse risk profiles. So this ensures that your portfolio can return a reasonable return no matter what the market cycle it is in. So in other words, theoretically, some of those assets will be going down, whereas others may be going up or even staying stable. The allocations across the different asset classes will be very much driven then by what kind of return you want to get, but also by what your risk tolerance is. So take a look at the core portfolio. Remember, we said the core portfolio would do well with having funds. And the two specific asset classes you want to put into those funds would be firstly your equities, which are considered your higher risk asset class but higher return, and then the second class would be bonds, which is considered your low risk asset class, lower return. And the logic behind the allocation between funds holding equities and funds holding bonds would be how much of a return you want to achieve. So in other words, the higher return, the higher the equity allocation, and how much risk you want to take. The lower the risk, the higher the bond allocation. There's a great newsletter by a guy, he called himself Moneyvator, and he says the back of the envelope suggestion for as to how much to allocate your bond would be your age. So in other words, if you are 30, that means you'd allocate 30% of your portfolio to your bond and 70% to equities. But he goes further and says if you have an aggressive risk tolerance, then you should decrease your allocation to bonds by 20%. So in other words, as a 30-year-old with an aggressive risk tolerance, you would have 90% in equities and 10% in bonds. If you have a gross risk tolerance, so you're really focused on growing your portfolio, you decrease the bond allocation by 10%. If you're more balanced and looking for a more even kind of risk, don't change anything. If you're feeling very cautious, then what you should do is increase your bond allocation by 10%. And if you're very conservative, increase that bond allocation by 20%. Now, the timeline you require to meet your portfolio goals will also influence your investment allocation. In particular, if you are trying to grow your portfolio very quickly, you're going to want to go with that growth risk tolerance. The longer the timeline, the higher the risk the portfolio can be exposed to, though, in general, because as I said, the portfolio is going to go up and down with the market, which can be quite vicious ups and downs at specific points in time. And so the longer your portfolio or your investments have to ride out those vicious ups and downs, the longer it has to recover specifically from the downs and do well over the long term. Let's move on to the next step. This step is where we build out the core of the capsule portfolio. And this is the part where you get to shop for the investments within your different asset classes. Now, the objective is to keep it simple, to keep it all weather, and that means it's diversified across different geographies, industries, and assets, and above everything else, it's easy to maintain. So for this, I would suggest starting with, as we said, the funds, and the two funds that you're going to want will be held in proportion to your level of risk tolerance that we spoke about earlier and that you're comfortable with. So you're going to invest in these two specific funds, a global equity fund and a global bond fund. And over time, as you gain confidence within investing, you can add exposure to emerging market equities, domestic small capitalization funds, and global property funds, all of which will reduce the allocation to your global equity fund, which will, however, will still remain the core equity fund in the portfolio. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the next fun part of the portfolio. The final step in creating your capsule portfolio is to add the accessories. So as I said earlier, as your investing confidence grows, you can look to adding the adornments. And these are the assets that can add a little bit of fun to the portfolio. Of course, they're probably going to be more higher risk, the more speculative parts of your portfolio, and they may include individual shares, as I said, commodities like gold, silver, those cryptocurrencies, and collectibles such as art. And because these are the more racy part of your capsule portfolio, less is definitely more when it comes to these type of investments. And that, in a nutshell, is your simple but effective capsule portfolio. If you're interested in learning more about investing and having more money, pop over to my website and check out the courses and webinars I have on offer. If you like this video, please let me know by liking it and share it with any other ladies who want to change their financial story. For financial education and money talk designed for women, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified of when I post a new video. And thanks for watching the entire way through.